Okay.
Yeah, we're ready to go.
All right. Well, I will call the Central Curry School District Board of Directors meeting to order on Wednesday, July 15th, 2020 at 6:02 p.m. And we will begin with the pledge, the Pledge of Allegiance. I like it. Okay. We'll see if we can do this. I'll start. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which
it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I don't know if somebody has the mission statement handy there.
I've got it handy.
Okay. I can't believe I don't have it memorized yet.
The mission of the Central Curry School District #1, in partnership with families and community, is to ensure each and every student is prepared to succeed and contribute in a global society by engaging in a challenging, personalized program of educational excellence.
All right. Thank you. Before we move to the next agenda item here, I just wanted to announce for Scott's wrangling. Announce to the general public who may or may not be aware, I received board member Luke Martinez's letter of resignation a few days ago, which he cited family and personal reasons. And we had a nice chat, and I thanked him for his service and wished him well. And so we will be having the discussion of appointing a new board member here in the near future. So anyway, I just wanted the general public to be aware. And with that being said, we'll move on to item number 2, election of chair and vice chair for 2020-2021.
As a prerequisite, it's any board member I can't see is up for vote.
Oh wait, let me put it on here. Hang on just a second. And Nancy just texted me. I'm gonna. Well, maybe I can text her from here.
Is Nancy on the call?
She was in the original group before I rebooted.
Okay, yeah, I just texted her back and told her it was working, but it's not showing that it delivered, or that my text delivered to her.
Just say it, Kaylee.
Say what?
Sorry, I'm distracted here. I'll just say in my own defense here that if you guys have me do it another year, then I can't do it the year after. I don't know if that makes any difference or not, but just throwing it out there.
Andy, is this your second year, or I mean, were it just last year?
Yeah, you and I, you did a year, and then we switched back. We were kind of on every 2 years, and now we're on an every other year cycle.
Kaylee, do you have any interest in being the leader of our ship?
I would, if that's what I would. I would prefer to be the vice if Andy is willing to keep being the chair while I am still trying to figure out all of how this works.
I think that's fair. Hey Tim, Nancy said she's trying to get back on. I don't know if she's in the waiting room or.
Okay, thank you. I don't see her yet, but we'll.
Okay.
Would you like to wait till she gets on before you take the vote?
Yeah, if we can. I mean,
Sure.
not that it. I'm certainly not going to make a motion to nominate myself.
Okay.
I'll let somebody else do that. I mean, I will serve again another year if the board is interested in that. A break certainly wouldn't hurt my feelings, but I will serve if asked.
We have any Nancy yet?
Here is Nancy now. Little KGRB in the background there. KGB.
I will move to nominate Andy Wright as board chair for the 2021 school year.
I will second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor? I'll do the roll call. Kaylee Clarno,
Aye.
Scott McNair,
Very affirmatively.
Nancy, are you on? Okay.
I just got on. Thank you. I'm here.
Okay. Yeah. Good. We're in the middle of a motion making me chair for another year. What say you on that subject? Yay or nay? Uh-oh. Maybe she was there.
Were you
Okay.
talking to me?
Yes, I was.
I think I heard her say yes.
Okay.
So
And
I didn't hear the motion.
Okay, it was just a motion to make me. It was a motion to make me chair for another year.
That would be awesome.
Okay, that's a yes, and I guess a yes from me. So that motion.
Yeah. Yes.
Next up, I move to nominate Kaylee Clarno as vice board chair for the 2021 school year.
I'll second that. All those in
I
favor?
second it.
No, never mind. Nancy did. All those in favor? Kaylee Clarno,
Aye.
Scott McNair,
Yes.
Nancy Sorensen,
Yes.
okay, and Andy Wright is a yes. All right, I've lost my agenda here. Okay, number 3, changes to the agenda. It looks like 8.10. We're adding the approval of the meal price increases? Is that?
That's correct.
Okay, I have no issue with that. Any other changes, folks?
No, sir.
Okay. Number 4, approval of the consent agenda. I did read the minutes, albeit quickly, but I did read them. I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
A second motion.
All those in favor? Kaylee Clarno,
Aye.
Scott McNair,
Aye.
Nancy Sorensen,
Aye.
and Andy Wright is an aye. Okay, number 5, citizen input for non-agenda items. We're still taking the comment cards via the district Facebook page to be emailed to either Tim or myself, or actually to Tim. We did not receive any cards, but we do have some written comments to be read into the record, I believe. So I'll turn that to you, Tim.
Thank you. And I did receive one that I'll read into the record. This is from Tina Lorino, address crowcatlorino@gmail.com. As the district develops plans for reopening our schools in the fall, I have some questions. I know that you do not have answers at this time, but I think these are important things for you to consider while drafting your plan. Number 1, if a teacher tests positive for COVID-19, are they required to quarantine for 2 weeks? Is their sick leave covered and paid? Number 2, If that teacher tests positive and has a class of 23 students, do all 23 of those students need to then stay home and quarantine for 14 days? Number 3, do all 23 of those students now have to be tested before they are allowed back? Who pays for those tests? Are they happening at school? How are the parents being notified? Does everyone in each of those kids' families need to get tested? Who pays for that? Next question, after one positive test for a student or staff comes in, do you think parents will continue to send their kids to school? Next, what if someone who lives in the same house as a teacher tests positive? Does that teacher now need to take 14 days off work to quarantine? Is that time covered, paid? Where is the district going to find a substitute teacher who will work in a classroom full of exposed, possibly infected students for substitute pay? I've already been contacted by one substitute teacher that says she will not sub this year due to potential exposure. Substitutes teach in multiple schools. What if they are diagnosed with COVID-19? Do all the kids in each school now have to quarantine and get tested? Who is going to pay for that? Do we all get notified who is infected and when? Or because of HIPAA regulations, are parents and teachers just going to get mysterious, may have been in contact emails all year long? What is the median age of our staff? About 16% of total deaths in the United States are people between the ages of 45 and 65. By my estimation, we have approximately 30 staff members, 30 staff over the age of 45. Opening the buildings every day for all students is choosing to put our staff in danger. Will they get hazard pay? When we closed schools statewide on March 13th, there were 30 cases of COVID-19 in Oregon. On July 13, there were 12,438 cases. That's in only 3 months with schools closed. Why would it be considered okay to send kids and staff back to school now when numbers of cases and numbers of deaths are increasing, not lessening? Not considering socialization, since that will be limited now anyway, who suffers more by going to 100% distance learning, the kids or the parents? As a school district, who do you put first? As an employee, if we go to 100% distance learning, I fear for my job, but I would rather take the risk of losing my job than risk the health and safety of our students and staff. Thank you all for working so hard during this time. Tina.
All right. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Tim. And so nothing else, Tim?
Yeah, nothing else has been submitted.
Okay. We will move on to district reports, 6.1, Crystal.
I better unmute then, huh?
That would help.
Okay, so I apologize for all the emails that I sent you guys. It was just lots of information. So I hope that you have your financial reports there with you, although I will be the first to say they're not very exciting. This disbursement detail listing, which is our accounts payable list, you can see that our spending was very limited as most of the staff has not been here. We've cut off most spending unless it was required. So most of the things on here, what you're going to see are just our regular monthly expenses. The revenue report, the big thing on there is you can see that our taxes did come in a little bit higher than what we had estimated, and that's exactly how we want it to be. When I budget for the taxes, I'm a little bit conservative, not overly conservative, but a little bit, hoping that they come in just a little bit higher, and that is exactly what has happened. And I have already booked the receivables in the taxes portion also, so that should be real close to that final number. On your expenditure report, we do still have some accounts payable runs to do, so these are not by any means going to be the final numbers. But you can look at that percentage column on the right-hand side. You can see for the most part we came in under, which is always a good thing. Like I said, we still have another run to do, which if they're June bills, they will be moved back and the expenditures will be booked in 1920 versus 2021. So those are not the final numbers yet. And then you have your cash balance report. As you can tell, we're in a good position. A difference on this is some of these last other years on the report, we haven't fronted hundreds of thousands of dollars out for a seismic project, you know, waiting for that money to come back in. So that's why you're seeing the cash is up higher than some of the previous years. So right now our cash is doing okay. We've also had a few things that have helped that, which I'm going to talk about here in a second, but the child nutrition program, some of our reimbursement, you know, we were running multiple programs, not only the regular traditional program here at the school, but also the ones where we were delivering to the home. So for example, in the month of May, we received over $50,000 in reimbursement for those meals. So that came in quite a bit higher. And speaking of child nutrition, I'm going to dive into that. But before I do, are there any questions about any of the financial reports?
Nothing from me.
Okay, let's talk about child nutrition. First, I want to give you the final update from the program we were operating where we were delivering meals to home. It was an enormous undertaking, which I'm sure you guys are all aware of. For the entire month of April and the entire month of May, we were delivering to homes twice a week. And then we also delivered once in March and twice in June. So basically, it was just a little over a 2-month period. And in that time, we delivered over 30,000 meals to kiddos. So I want to give a big shout out to our food service staff, as well as to all of those volunteers that came in and really worked hard to make sure that our kids got fed, you know, during this crisis. So that was the first thing. You have a charging policy for meals that I emailed to you. We underwent an administrative review for the child nutrition programs this year, which is basically a nice way of saying we went through an audit. And this document was actually an outcome of one of the administrative findings. We have a charging board policy. We have an administrative regulation to go with that school board policy. I thought that was what they were asking for, but they actually wanted an even more detailed charging policy, something that we could put, for example, in our handbooks and that we could put on our website. And so I did create this policy for that. There are some changes in it if you haven't had a chance to look at it real quick. It basically goes through the detailed process of what we're going to do for charging and what we're going to do for debt. And the delinquent debt has been a problem in this district for many, many years. And so this is one of the goals that we have, is to try to get a handle on this. And you can see that there's a whole lot of steps that we're going to go through to work with our families to get these debts down. But if you have any questions or concerns about the charging policy, please email me or contact me and we can discuss that. But this is the document that that did get approved by Oregon Department of Education Child Nutrition Program. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was what child nutrition might look like this next year. I would love to tell you that I know exactly what it's going to look like, but I don't. One of the big reasons for that is this new corporate activity tax that, you know, we've all been talking about. Until the legislature comes together and makes a decision, we don't know if the child nutrition portion of that corporate activity tax is going to be funded. In my opinion, it's incredibly important that it is funded because there's a couple of programs that we're looking at right now that we are possibly interested in. One of them you've heard of, I'm sure, many times before, and that's the CEP, the Community Eligibility Provision. And it's based on a calculation and formulas to determine how much you're going to get in reimbursement, and you have to meet a certain threshold for eligibility. If money gets passed from the legislature through that CAT tax, there's going to be an expanded program that Oregon is going to do in addition to the federal CEP. And if they're able to do that, it might make it a program that is going to be viable for this district. So we're going to start the preliminary numbers with ODE to determine our eligibility in the first place, and then we're going to kind of go from there and see what happens with the funding. The second program, even if CEP doesn't work for this district, there's another program, once again, if the funding comes through, and it's pretty exciting. It's called the Oregon Expanded Income Guideline. And if you know anything about the food service program, you probably know that families fill out what's called a free and reduced application. And depending on their household income, they get put into categories. And those categories are traditionally, the students are qualified for free. They're the free category, meaning that their breakfast and lunches are free as long as they're a reimbursable meal. There's also the reduced price. And there's going to be, and then there's the paid. So people that don't qualify for either of those, they pay for the meals. And we're going to be looking at meal prices in a little bit. But Oregon is trying to put in another category. I want to give you an example of it because it's pretty substantial. So this coming year, the numbers are already out. And if you are a family of 4 and your household income is less than $34,060, the students in that household would qualify for free meals. So they would get free breakfast and free lunches. However, if your household income is more than that, but it is less than $48,470, the kiddos in that family, they would be qualified as reduced price. They would be in the category of reduced price. However, the state of Oregon already backfills that and gives us money so that the actual cost to those students is $0. So our categorically free students and our categorically reduced students right now are paying $0. Then we had our paid category of kids who were obviously paying the amounts that are set in our policy. If we get the funding, Oregon's going to have, we're going to have 2 categories of paid kids. And what's going to happen is for, once again, a family of 4, as long as you don't make more than $78,600, you would fall then under the Oregon Expanded Income Guideline, and Oregon would pay for those meals, and the price to those kids would also be $0. So I'm expecting that there's a huge amount of our families that are going to fall in that, because if you look at the number from reduced, which was a little over 48,000, all the way up to this one, which is over 78,000, that's $30,000 more a household could make and now qualify for a program. So it's really substantial. Would be a really big boost in our district. I think there's going to be lots of families that fall into it. And so we hope that the legislature comes through and makes sure that the child nutrition programs are funded. And that number, by the way, the Oregon number was determined as 300% of the poverty level. That's the qualification amount. Are there any questions?
I think Andy's dog said no.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Or
too
rough,
hot
I
out
think.
my secret trailer today, so I'm in the house.
Gotcha.
All right, thank you, Crystal.
Welcome.
Okay, Superintendent Report, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you. I think I'm going to, start with, I'll just kind of read that to you. Let me get out of my not sharing here. Sorry. I got my report into a couple different categories. One, I'll be attending virtually the COSA Summer Institute the first week of August. It has a wide variety of topics that are primarily going to be centered on the reopening of schools and specifically how to support our students of special needs, of second language. A big portion of the conference is around the social emotional learning and those things that we have lost since school last was in session back in March. And then another big segment of courses around virtual learning and virtual teaching. So I'll be happy to report back to you on those at our August meeting. Under personnel actions, I have accepted 2 letters of resignation. One was from Jennifer Piper, our cheerleader coach for about the past 8 years. We really appreciate her school spirit and dedication to the girls and boys who have been a part of our cheer squads those past 8 years. Additionally, we've accepted the resignation of Bradley Roner, who taught 2nd grade for us at Riley Creek. This past year, he's moved on to another position near Roseburg, and so we wish him well. Under some budget-related topics, I think I'll start with the idea that as we recognize where potentially our distance learning may go, we've had some discussions on the administrative team and have determined that we would like to furnish each teacher with a new laptop when school begins in August, or actually when they return to work. And so we're in the process of getting bids. The funding for this is coming from that. You might remember in our budget conversations, there was about a $40,000 COVID-related expenses. And this is where we anticipate we will pay for the majority of those laptops. And I know a lot of our teachers are working daily on their desktops of some machines that are 10 and 12 years old. So for everyone to have the opportunity to have a laptop to work from home as well as from school, as well as to enhance their teaching certainly is the goal. We had a little oops when we ordered our new buses last year. It turns out that one of them is too big to fit in our garage. And so rather than spend a lot of money on remodeling the building, we have some bids out looking at some fencing that would provide a little bit more security if we had to park buses outside of the bus garage. The type of fencing and gates we would have would certainly still be open for community activities, such as Little League and soccer, who use that field around the bus yard, but it would be provide us some more secure area during the night. And we have a couple bids on the heating system in the metal shop that has been the bane of our existence for the last year or so. There's been some repairs, but not full repaired. So we're hoping to get that done during the month of August. And finally, I know a couple of you had planned to attend OSBA's summer conference last Saturday, again, a virtual event, but ODE Director Colt Gill announced to the conference that schools at this point, the governor has made it a priority to maintain the $9 billion state school fund funding, and that our July checks from the state will be reflective of that strategy. However, there are still decisions to be made around the Student Success Act and the High School Success Act, also known as Measure 98, waiting to find out if there would be some state and federal legislative moves that would fund those. The corporate activity tax that Crystal talked about momentarily around food service, as you know, we have an application for about $400,000 in additional funding. Early indicators of that tax say that projections will be about 25% less than was anticipated. So I guess an optimist could look at that to say that potentially we could get up to 75% of our SIA money. However, I do want to keep it out there as well that we're not sure what the Measure 98 money is, the funding. That's also tied to the state school fund. We have about $80,000 budgeted primarily in personnel in Measure 98. So there would be the possibility that we would have to rewrite our SIA funds to maintain those current programs or make some other budget adjustments. So as exciting as it is to say that our state school fund appears to be more solid than we thought a month ago, those other two categories, which represent about $500,000, are still in cahoots. And we'll have to wait until the legislature meets, and the latest we've heard is the first week of August that it should be announced in the next couple of days when they'll meet, but they're anticipating the first week of August. And then my last part of my report is I have a committee working on the comprehensive safety plan. We've had 1 4-hour work session specifically around the infectious disease annex, and we'll be continuing to work as a team this summer with that. And that's my report.
All right. Thank you, Tim. We will move on to old business. 7.1 school in the fall update. Back to Mr. Wood.
And again, thank you. And I'll try to make this as brief as possible. It's great that we're seeing some people who are participating in our community forums as well as attending our board meetings as well. And so I'm going to share my screen first to show you. Everybody see it okay? The survey? And
yeah.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
So this is, I'm not going to do this verbatim, but you might remember in late June, we put out a survey. I was very pleased to see we had 221 responses to our survey. And I'm just going to hit a couple of the highlights, but this survey is available for the public to look at with all the other documents related to Ready School Safe Learners on our school webpage. That's where all the public notices, the community forums, and all the guidance is located. But you can see we had, of that 221, about 81% of them consider themselves to be parents or guardians of the district. Question number 3, how comfortable are you with your students returning to the fall? There's a couple different ways to look at this. We can say that 63% are in the comfortable range and 26% are in the uncomfortable range. Certainly my goal, or our goal, I should say, is how do we make these 26% more comfortable? And I think this will come with more information about our plan, and certainly as we all review the news every day, how the pandemic affects the total opening of schools in general. But at least on July 1st, we had about 2/3 who were comfortable and about 25% who were in the uncomfortable range. To take that a little bit deeper, we had about half the people say they're comfortable with returning to school. And this was one of those questions where people could indicate, they could put all 5 or 6 responses if they want. And so you'll see there are different reasons why people still may have some concern. So again, these are priority areas in our planning. I won't read all of these for now, but there were 38 other comments, and they spread the gamut of I want school to open, please take my child, to I don't want anything to do with masks and social distancing. There is certainly a middle ground of saying, wanting to know, just wanting some normalcy to their kids' lives and to their family lives. So please take the time to read those, if you will. Question 5 was, if you had to make a decision today, which option would you choose? 62% said they wanted to be in the buildings, but there were still 20% needing more information, very understandable. And about 10 to 12%, looks like more like 14, were considering some other options. Related to transportation, as board members, you probably recognize that we provide transportation, excuse me, beyond the state requirement. So if you think about from the port to the Vizcaíno Court, that's about a mile each direction from Riley Creek. And so we are currently have bus stops within that circle of town. If we're in a situation where we have to adjust our busing for social distancing on a bus, that may need to change. So if that were to occur, we saw that 82% would drive their children to school. And then finally, the last two questions were around technology. As far as connectivity, roughly 90% say they have reliable or spotty. And again, we have 15 respondents in this survey. They say they don't have internet available. And then in the last question, the types of devices that people would have available to do schoolwork. Again, I want to look at the spotting category for those who don't have any. And between that and the connectivity, those are certainly areas in our plans that we're trying to address, and actually have some community organizations who are willing to help us out with some additional grant funding and donations to make some of that to close the deficit there. I'm going to switch real quick to, are any questions or comments about the survey?
Nothing for me.
Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and then just very, very briefly share this presentation. Can you see it okay? Yes, no? No, I think I need to share it. Here we go. Let's try this again. This was the presentation I gave at last night's meeting. It was attended by 16 people. And so I want to skip essentially to where we are as a task force committee. I noticed that one of our attendees tonight is Margaret House, who's one of our community members on that task force. I appreciate her being on tonight. So last night I reviewed those survey results, and then I talked about the 3 different models. I do need to make this correction here. The next meeting is actually on August the 12th. And I'll make that in a couple of press releases so that correct date is out there. Just as a reminder, these are a lot of the principles we have to keep in mind regardless of what plan we select. This is a slide that we saw last time. Basically, these are the 3 choices that districts have, but we also had to be prepared for any 3 of these. So the work of the committee is an on-site plan and hybrid plan, and then the comprehensive distance learning plan. This is a little bit of a change from last time. This used to be a 2-week short term, and now it's 4. So this is the idea: if we come up with some type of decision that we need to close school temporarily due to an outbreak, school teachers would have already prepared within a couple of days a 2 or 4 week learning plan with the idea that this would be distance learning, similar but more rigorous to what we had last spring. And then either we return back to brick and mortar school, or we shift to an extended time for CDL. The 3 models real quick. This is our priority one, not only for the board, but waiting for somebody to mute there.
The versatile component VX series subcompact tractor does it all. Switching attachments.
It's Teresa. Hey, Teresa, you came unmuted there.
Thank you. So with the idea of being at school every day, all students every day at school, these are the kind of the main components where we are in our planning. We've done a study of each of the classrooms as far as what their maximum capacity is. And with all, but right now with our current numbers, we have two classes, a fourth grade class and a fifth grade class that are 2 above the projection. And so there would either need to be a change of classroom to accommodate a larger group, or make some other alternatives with that. The cohort size that we started planning with was groups by those 3 grade bands, a K2, a 3-5, and a 6-8, that have about 100 students each. So that essentially means they're 3 schools within a school. They have their own bathrooms, they have their own recess time, they have their own hallways, they have their own entrances into the schools, and so on. If we are required to go a little bit more secure than that, then potentially like the 2nd grade would be its own cohort, and that would bring it down to between 40 and 50 students in a cohort rather than 100. We've talked a little bit about transportation. We feel that we can get all of our students to school as normal, but we may have to, again, alter some current routes. And then finally, a big part of this is the contract tracing that involve starting when the students get on the bus, when they come into the school, and then throughout the day. This is supposed to be a very seamless process. We can go back if necessary and identify where a student was anytime during the day based on lesson plans, schedules, and so on. We understand that from that survey that there may be some people who are still not quite ready to return to school, but still want to be connected with the school. And so these are 2 options that are under consideration that we subcontract out with another current online school. And then those parents, students would commit to that for either a quarter or a semester. The other one, again, depending on the numbers of people who would request this model, that we would take one of our current teachers and reassign them to be a online coordinator for maybe up to 20 or 25 students. So that's still a consideration. We have had about 20 students leave the district this summer to other online virtual charter schools. I'm hoping that when these families find out that we have one within our district, that they will consider coming back and using either one of these 2 options, or potentially a 3rd option not yet created. We spent a lot of our time in this week's meeting talking about the hybrid model. As I shared last night in a little bit of a chuckle, sometimes it's good not to be the popular kid in town. Whereas the hybrid model really is the most popular model across our state and actually across the nation, where that's a blending of being at school part-time and being at home part-time during the school week. Our committee task force fully recognizes that a major hurdle in this type of model is around childcare. And so keeping that as at the forefront of any filtering or lens, how could we help with that accommodation if that were necessary, working with community partners. We recognize that many of our private child care centers are already full, and so this is a big challenge. One possibility, and I'll show you an example in a moment, would be having older siblings on the within the same group, the A group or the B group, if you will. That might help with some families in taking care of younger ones while parents and so on are at work. The benefit of this is that those class sizes, there may be 26 or 27 now, would be down to 12 and 13 because they would be attending, a couple of days a week. We recognize that there's a lot of material potentially from last spring that needs to be reviewed, and to have smaller groups would raise the possibility of having more growth, student growth with smaller classes. And then we've had many of our families also talk about having things normal. So when we have only half the students at a school, then we can go back to the idea of having a quote unquote normal recess and lunch in the cafeteria, things like that. Another part of the model that has been used in other districts is that the special needs students would attend all 4 days a week. And special needs doesn't necessarily just mean those who've already been identified for special needs, but there might be some who are recommended who are just need that extra support. There's no criteria established for that. Didn't want to get too deep into that until we decide we're going to go more into that model. And this is just one example. There are so many different variations. I kind of joked last night, there's 191 school districts in Oregon, and there's probably 191 different ways people have looked at this. This is one that's one of the more popular ones, where a group of students comes to school for 2 days a week, and then while they're at school, the other half of the students are at home doing online instruction, and then they flip-flop later in the week. In this model, Wednesday is the day that there would be no school on site. There would be some deep cleaning beyond what the regular vigilant cleaning would be during the regular school days. This would also be the time where teachers would do their weekly lesson plans for both the on-site and online, as well as office hours for students and families to call in, for them to call families. The third one is called the Comprehensive Distance Learning. This is the CDL. This is really more an extension of what we had last spring, but there are significantly more guidelines around that. You know, we have to continue to give credit to our teachers, our instructional staff, and really to our parents for putting together the best distance learning model possible when we had about a week or so, and really in an atmosphere that most of our excuse me, most of our teachers are not familiar with. And I think they would all tell you now that there is a difference in teaching in an online environment versus in the classroom. And so some lessons learned have occurred there. We as a district have learned some lessons about the best ways to better prepare for distance learning. And again, this would be in place or be ready to be in place in the event of a governor's executive order for all schools to go to the comprehensive distance learning. We recognize that we need to train our parents and kids about how they use those tools and to, again, increase our capacity to provide devices and internet access to those who currently don't have it. We would also return to our meal service program as we had in the spring. Along the lines, along the way, we want to continue to keep our families and community informed. We do have the one more community forum on August the 12th. We'll get the last ODE guidance, I believe, on August 18th. I'll be presenting the final blueprint plan to you on August 19th. But I would hope by the 12th or 13th that I would have a form, some type of correspondence to families that would give them the type of information needed to for them to decide what their model is, what their choice for the fall is going to be. Our local health authority, Cherie Good, and I are trying to get time together to go through our plan. And so that was just a reminder that we have to include them in our planning as well as constant communication. It's a little bit about the review, and that ended the presentation. So I come back to you all. If you have any questions or comments, I'd open that up to even our committee members as well. Margaret or Josh, if anyone had any questions.
I don't necessarily have any questions. I just, want to follow up on comments from meetings prior. I just struggle with the notion of, of the hybrid model, based solely on childcare and parents trying to work, and I think we're fooling ourselves if we think the kids aren't going to commingle with one another out, from the other groups outside of school. So what are we really accomplishing at the end of the day? It will most definitely limit the number of kids in the building at a time, which is a good thing. And what I really struggle with the online class, when we say online class, and I guess this is my actual question, is it going to be, does online mean we're going to send these kids home with work packets that they're to do under self-study and under the direction of their parents? Or are they going to have a structured environment where they need to be on the Zoom call with their teacher at X time of day? I could sign off on something that to me.
It's the latter. Yeah.
It is.
There would be much more specific scheduling requirements. Students would be graded, attendance is taken. We really need to minimize the paper packet part as much as we can. If we can do that by providing those devices and so on, even if it's the hotspot is driving to the school parking lot and accessing their work there. No, I think we see a much higher standard of rigor and expectations from our teachers as well. Again, knowing that a high majority, I don't want to make judgment necessarily on all of the lessons up at this point that our teachers provided, but there were many, many people who put in lots of hours to have specific lessons that were tied to, that were fun and engaging, and then there were some that weren't as engaging. And so I think that's where we kind of saw a little bit of burnout with the packets, and as the school year lingered, saw less engagement. So that's going to be a challenge for our teachers as they design their lessons. One of the big complaints we heard from parents was all the different types of platforms that are being used. We will be directing with teachers by grade levels. Our current plan is K-5 and 6-12 to have the specific and the same learning platforms, and so they can branch off from there rather than trying to go to several different spots. Yes. And I know this was a struggle for our teachers that I've heard many times is about the number of contacts that teachers and parents had the opportunity, or teachers and students, depending on the grade level. We had that spectrum of, I got too many calls from teachers because I have 4 kids in my house and they all got 2 or 3 calls, a week, or a lot of calls. And then I had unfortunately the other side where I've had parents contact me that they didn't receive any to maybe 1 or 2 contacts. So again, there has to be an expectation and a schedule of when those times are going to be.
Well, and just to clarify, I'm not taking issue with the content of the packets. It's just the whole structure of it. The kids, we all know there were kids in houses that kind of just got left to their own devices and the work went unchecked. Whereas if we come back and there's structure, they're sitting down in front of something and having to, engage, structured time-wise, and, there's, just a level of responsibility there and attention that's going to be, I just, especially with the K-5 kids, that model did not, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was concerning. It's not anybody's fault. We did what we could and, with
Correct.
a week's notice. moving forward, that's just kind of where my mind's at. I don't, we'll see what happens here.
Yeah.
Curry County's, if things stay as they are, we're not very representative of what is happening
That's true.
elsewhere in the world, and tourist season will pretty much be over by the time we hit school, the start of school. So I mean, I'm still in favor of having the kids in the building, and having the online alternative. I mean, I know people aren't going to feel comfortable sending their kids to school, and I have no problem with that. So anyway, I'm just spouting what's coming through my head, but that's it. I'll be quiet.
Thank you. And I did want to add one more point, because if things, let's hope that we don't have to start the year in a distance learning category. It seems the large metropolitan areas and so on are making those decisions now. The reason I bring it up for us tonight is right now we have our teachers returning on August 31st and students on September 8th. If our task is to start the year in that distance learning, our teachers are going to need more time than 4 days to get ready. And so I may bring back to you at the August meeting a possible revision to the calendar as far as the school start day. Again, we'll know more information a month from now, 5 weeks from now, but I did want to kind of let you know that would be a possibility, because I would want to give our teachers 2 weeks of their own training and own planning to prepare for that distance learning concept.
Okay. Anybody else have questions on that topic or comments?
It sounds like your thoughts are kind of in the same direction that my thoughts are right now, Tim. And it sounds also like there's been some good discussion on it. But my concern is that we put too many eggs in every student in the building option, and then end up wishing that we would have put more energy into thinking about distance learning for all if we get forced into it.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I don't know if it matters, but specifically in Curry County, I can tell you where the other districts are right now. Port Orford Langlois is planning to do a 4-day school week with everyone coming to school every day. Brookings in their first round, I don't know that have the latest from their middle high model, but their elementary model is landing around 4 days a week, AM, PM. So a K-5 student would go to school every day, except they would only go for a half day in the morning or a half day in the afternoon. So again, just an example of Myrtle Point is going to school Tuesday through Friday, everyone in the building, with Monday again being that planning day for those who are also doing distance learning.
That's good to know.
Tim, I just had a quick question. It seems like, about all you can do is have a plan in all three categories, because even if we went back to students in the building, if one of those incidents occurred where you have to break away, you have to be able to go right to distant learning, and then with the idea of coming back to maybe a hybrid learning or back in school. So the only thing you can really do is have 3 plans, or all 3 plans pretty well mapped out, because they all could happen at the same time potentially.
That is true. That is true.
It's it's an undertaking to have 3 plans like that trying to run, but we have to have some. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and to be fair to our public and our families and kids, to make those decisions and plans as public as soon as possible will be an informed decision.
Is there discussions of what ends all of this, where like an ultimate ending? Like when we enter the school year, are we just assuming, like if we ended up in distant learning or hybrid, are we planning on, what is the end? gain.
So the end specifically for this guidance is the 2021 school year.
Gotcha.
So we could be in the building till February and then have an outbreak and then go to short term. So it is in effect for the entire school year. As far as the end to this, I think it's vaccination. And again, who knows where that progress goes and how the legislation will go as far as requirements for that.
Yeah, I think I said it last month. It just, it does help me kind of process all of this, just knowing that theoretically speaking, there is an end at some point. I mean, well, we hope there's an end at some point, but what we're having to deal with now is a temporary moment in time that will eventually change, based on something. So how's that for scientific definition? Based on something.
At some time,
Yeah.
theoretically speaking.
Okay. I guess if there's no other questions or comments for Tim, we will move on. As soon as I get my agenda back open. Okay. New business 8.1, approve the 2020-21 designations.
I assume
No.
we can just roll 8.1 through 8.4 into a single as presented.
Yeah, I like what you're thinking there.
I'm trying to get this for the audience purpose real quick. Just get through my presentation.
Yeah, no, I'll just read the headers while you're doing that. 8.1 is approving designations of various district people within the district as far as administrative. 8.2 is identifying confidential and supervisory and administrative staff. 8.3 is establishing the school board meeting schedule for the year. And 8.4 is approving administrative memberships in the COSA, Coalition of School Board Administrators, membership in the Oregon School Boards Association and the OSBA Legal Trust, policy updates, and the Oregon Small Schools Association. So I move we approve agenda items 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, and 8.4 as presented.
Second.
All those in favor? Kaylee Clarno,
Aye.
Scott McNair,
Aye.
Nancy Sorensen,
Aye.
and Andy Wright is an aye. Motion approved, which takes us to 8.5, the substitute teacher pay rates for 2020-21. And I think there's some paperwork in the mix on this from Crystal or somewhere in the packet. Tim, was there anything you wanted to
Yes, I do have it up on the screen. I think it's up for people. That rate is determined by state formula. And so the rate of pay for a substitute teacher for next year would be $189.32 per day.
Okay. Any questions about that one?
Is that something we need to approve then, Andy?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I move to approve substitute teacher rate or pay rates for 2021.
I'll second the motion.
I'll second.
I think Kaylee beat her. All those in favor, Kaylee Clarno,
Aye.
Scott McNair,
Aye.
Nancy Sorensen, you there, Nancy?
Yes, I said aye. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. And Andy Wright is an aye. So 8.5 is approved. Which takes us to 8.6, approving contracts for the non-represented groups, confidential, supervisory, and administrative for 2021.
So just
And
as just as a reminder to the board and to the public, these are the actual contracts that list the working conditions and requirements, the number of days, any vacation that is applicable to that group. Earlier, back in May, you approved the salary schedule. So this actually in these contracts has their scheduled salary plus all the other things that I just mentioned.
Yeah, actually, I actually read them.
I move to approve contracts for non-represented groups, confidential, supervisory, and administrative for 2021.
I'll second that one.
Second.
I'll give that one to you, Nancy. I rescind my second. You can have it.
All right.
All those in favor, Kaylee Clarno,
Aye.
Scott McNair,
Aye.
Nancy Sorensen,
Aye.
Andy Wright is an aye. 8.6 is approved. Which takes us to 8.7, approving board goals for 2021. And they're in our packet here somewhere. No, Tim's got them there.
So essentially, I took your guidance from last month, and these are essentially the same goals you had this year, with the emphasis on the continuation of your partnership with the district leadership team, increasing community engagement, our long-range facilities plan, and reacting to making school models related to pandemic or other emergencies, as well as the district improvement goals of increasing annual growth, student attendance, and attaining and recruiting and retaining of highly qualified teachers.
Any thoughts or further comment from the board on that? I just want to add, my goal for next year is just to get through it. Can we put that on there?
Get through it, yes.
All right, well, if there's no further comment or questions on the goals for next year, I move, are we voting on our goals?
Yes, please.
Yes, we are. Okay, I move we approve the board goals for 2020, 2021.
I'll second the motion. Thanks for putting those together, Tim.
You bet.
Yes, thank you. All those in favor, Kaylee Clarno,
Aye.
Scott McNair,
Aye.
Nancy Sorensen,
Aye.
Andy Wright is an aye. Goals approved. 8.8, approve second reading of proposed policy JHH, suicide prevention. And Tim's got it up on the screen for everybody.
This is a new policy across the state.
Yeah, I think I remember, from what I remember discussing, we're just approving it as it was presented to us, correct?
Yes.
Yep. Any questions, comments?
Do we need to read it?
No.
Okay. I move to approve policy JHH as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor, Kaylee Clarno,
Aye.
Scott McNair. No, maybe. Is he muted?
Aye. Aye.
Oh, there you are. Nancy Sorensen,
Aye.
Andy Wright is an aye. Policy JHH approved. 8.9, first reading of a couple proposed policies, which are in the packet, and Tim's going to pull up here. You want to go over any of those,
Certainly,
Tim?
you bet. So just our luck, these came in last Friday afternoon, just as I was getting ready to push the button to say there wouldn't be any more, but knowing that August would probably be a busy month, I figured we'd go ahead and get this on here. So we do currently have policy GBL, personnel records. But this is some revisions. I've left the revisions as proposed from our current policy. You can see there's some strikeout language and some additional language. Mostly it's just verbiage, changing a couple things. I do see that number 4 was a new item. A board member, when specifically authorized by the board, information will be kept confidential, no files removed. That's a new new one. And some other language related to confidential records, what's confidential and what's not public, and reasons to relate that. So this one might want to be something you review. I will probably bring it back to you in August with the items that are listed here, unless I hear from you as far as discussion. So that's JBL. The next one is a new policy related to that, JBLA, the disclosure of information. So I think it just goes in a little deeper into the JBL that we just read about what things are confidential and not public, and the ways to, and who may request such records. This JBN, JBA, AKA JBA, GBN, there is a sister policy where they reverse the letters, because G is for staff and J is for students. And so they use the same policy, but they counter mix up the letters to, sorry, I'm not using very proper English here. They're identified in 2 different ways. So we currently do have a sexual harassment policy. This is a proposed new version, and as a result of Senate Bill 155 that went into effect on July 1. Specifically around more about the, as I go through here, more around the reporting, and that would be the ARs that go with it, the complaint procedure, and so if you get a chance to read through those, I probably will bring back this as presented or as proposed from OSBA. Sorry for the scribble here. There's a form that would now be a part of that AR, and a witness form as well. And then we have lastly a revision of a current policy, IGBAH, administrative rules. That's under evaluation and eligibility procedures for special education. And again, just some very minor updates around the planning process. Everything else is a status quo. So I'll bring those back to you for your consideration as a second reading at our next meeting.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Any questions on those? All right, we'll move to 8.10, approve the 2021 meal rates.
And I'll refer to Crystal for this one, please.
You should have the current meal prices. I did email them to you. This has been pretty standard for the last few years of raising the prices up 10 cents. So for example, breakfast at Riley Creek for a student would cost $1.70 is what I'm recommending, and lunch would be $2.45. I did raise the extra entree up to $1.50, but left the extra milk, side dish, or dessert at a nice even 50 cents. And then it's very similar also for the high school. So the high school breakfast would be $1.95, while lunch would be $2.70. And then if you look under the adult section, those were raised by about a quarter on some of the items. So breakfast for an adult would be $2.50 if they ate in our cafeteria. Lunch would be $4.25. And if they wanted to go only to the salad bar itself, it would be $2.75.
All right. Any questions on that? I move we approve the 2021 meal rates as presented.
I'll second.
All those in favor, Kaylee Clarno,
Aye.
Scott McNair,
Aye.
Nancy Sorensen,
Aye.
and Andy Wright is an aye. All right. Number 9, citizen input on agenda items only. We had no submissions for that one, so we will move on to board
Andy?
member. Oh, yes,
Andy,
sir.
If
Yeah.
I just may, I wanted to share with the citizens who are attending. This was a request in our June meeting about having a second opportunity for public comment. And so I did a survey of the 9 other school districts in our ESD, and over half of them had the 2 comment. And I kind of borrowed their language that it does give the opportunity for people to speak or provide comment at the beginning of the meeting on a non-agenda item. As an example, with Tina tonight, she was expressing her comments about COVID in general and the reopening of schools. And then on the agenda now, towards the end, this is a place where people, if we were live, this would, and or in our current situation, if someone wanted to comment about something that was discussed during the board meeting, this would be that chance at the end of the meeting, end of the meeting for people to comment after what they've heard. This part might be a little difficult during our Zoom time, but certainly when we're back to meeting and open, this will make a little bit more sense and hopefully acknowledge the request that was made last time.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that too. I'm glad you wanted to clarify there. We had discussed it before, and I just kind of want to point out that there's really no scenario that I can remember in the last 5 years where the board brought something and voted on it that exact same night before the comment or the public was able to make comment on it. So it gives people time. There will always be a chance to make public comment on a subject in virtually every scenario I can imagine. So it seems like a very reasonable way to go about that. So,
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, individual board member reports. We'll just start with Kaylee. Anything?
I don't really have anything.
Okay, Mr. McNair.
I do not have anything tonight.
All right, Nancy.
I just wanted to say that I attended the virtual summer board conference on Saturday, and Mr. Wilson actually went over most of the things they spoke about, but I think the thing that I took away for parents or staff was that there are a lot of people that are out there trying to put together things that will work with all the different situations or scenarios that may come up. And I just want to thank all the volunteers, the class that I went to, or several classes, and also Mr. Wilson and everyone putting things together, because it is a daunting task. And so it's very much appreciated. And all the people that were there have the students, parents, and staff and in their ideas and thoughts on how to make it all work with all the different scenarios. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, I don't really have much more to add. I just kind of want to say I'm sad to see Luke go. I appreciated his comments and conversations and his perspective. And we, when Ryan Ringer resigned, he got arm twisted, and then when he came up for election the first time around, he got a little arm twisting from me. So I appreciate him hanging on and participating, being a willing participant and offering, and offering good perspective. So, thank you to him again for his service. And that's really all I have to add for tonight.
So related to that, Andy, I just wanted to share with the board and with the public the next steps in that. So tomorrow and in the newspaper next week, we'll begin advertising for candidates to be appointed. I would hope that you would have the opportunity to make that appointment in August. And so the applications will be available on the website, and those would be available for you to preview. Then the board can choose to have interviews at that August meeting. We can talk about if we need to do that, maybe meet a little bit earlier. We'll just see how that part goes. And then Luke's, so the person who succeeds Luke would be in office through June 30 of 2021. Luke was just elected to a new 4-year term. So this person would go through next June. However, they could be on the they could be on the election next May, and then that to fulfill the rest of the term, which would go through 24. And as I recall, Scott and Scott and Nancy's positions will also reopen up in May. So anyway, we look forward to seeing some great candidates to join this great board.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Let me see here. Okay. Key dates in the calendar, Parent and Community Forum on Ready Schools, Safe Learners, Wednesday, August 12th at 6 p.m. Is that the right date, Tim?
It is.
Okay. All right. And our next regular board meeting will be August 19th, 2020, 6 p.m. Maybe in the library, probably not.
It won't be. The executive order goes through September 4th.
Oh, okay.
So our next meeting will be Zoom as well. And I'd like the board also maybe possibly to be open to a special meeting if we get any budget updates from the legislature. There would be the potential that we would meet before the 19th. Again, it's the timing of how quickly we need to make some decisions. So please be open for that.
Yeah, I will be around here, there, and everywhere, but I'll be around.
All right, thank you.
Tim, just a quick question on the Parent Community Forum. How many participants do you have in that?
Sure. At our first meeting on June 24th, we had 25 in person and 25 in the Zoom, including yourself. And then last night we had a total of 17.
Okay. In-house?
1 in-house and 16 in the Zoom.
Okay.
So I think the word about the being 10 or less in a meeting may have impacted the in-building participation.
Do you actually, is there a cohesive group that's, I mean, as you have each meeting, I mean, do you have an actual group that's attending, or is it kind of voluntary to each meeting?
Sure. So there were people in last night's meeting that I would say the high majority of them came back for the second meeting.
Okay.
I think a lot of this is my opinion, that people came to the first meeting because there was still not a lot of information out there. And so perhaps their initial anxieties or questions were answered that first night. I anticipate that the the pendulum will swing back in August as we get closer to announcing our plans, that there'll be an increased amount of participation.
Thanks, Tim.
Mhm.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay. I will adjourn this meeting at 7:26 p.m. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Have a good
Andy.
night.
Good night.